Hi, everybody. So I did a talk on Sunday, the first in my series called Mind the Gap, and the one on Sunday was called Silence and Sabbath. Because I said I find it very easy to be distracted. I find it that often my life feels quite full. And Exodus points to three ways that maybe we can look for space in our lives. We can learn a rhythm that involves stopping and reflection and noticing and all those kind of things that maybe are a bit harder to do in our world that's so full of distraction. The first one was from the Ten Commandments, where God says to the Israelites, you've got to remember to take a day off. Remember the Sabbath. You might want to chat a little bit about what Sabbath means to you. For me, that there's a few reasons why I think that it's such an amazing, amazing commandment. The first one, for some of us, we need to remember that despite us being busy, we're not that important. In that, if we stop for a day, the world is going to keep on spinning. And sometimes we need to realize that. And it gives us a bit of a sense of release to know that actually the emails are still going to be there tomorrow. We can stop, we can take a day. And the other reason is that these people have come from slavery, where their whole worth was bound up with how many bricks they would make for their slave owners. And God says, no, take a day off. I'm in charge now. You've got a loving father, not an angry Pharaoh. We've got a God who says you're loved before you start. Before you build any bricks, you love before you start. You love before you've paid any bills. You're loved before you've tidied the house. You're loved at the start of the day. You don't have to earn it by how many bricks you produce. So take a day off and remember that I'm in charge, not Pharaoh. The other thing was a little line in Exodus that really got under my skin. It's when God says to Moses, come up the mountain and be there. So often I feel that I'm there, but I'm not there. I'm talking to someone and it feels like we're having a conversation, but really they've got one eye on their phone, their mind somewhere else. But God says to Moses, no, you've got to come up the mountain and be there, to pay attention. And I think that's so important. I told a couple of stories on Sunday, one about the two people who just went for a muddy walk and they didn't realize they're walking through the Red Sea because their mind wasn't attuned to the miracles all around them. They didn't realize that actually our world is drenched in beauty and the miraculous. They need to stop and pay attention. That might be something you want to chat about. How can we make sure that in our life we stop and pay attention? Colossians says that all things are held together by Christ. And I think that as we stop and pay attention, we see Christ all around us. The fingerprints of Christ cover the universe. And we talked a little bit about how the stars demonstrate that as well. And finally, the third thing from Exodus is God's name. Because when Moses says to God, God, what am I going to call you? God says, I am who I am, or Yahweh, Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh. And though that phrase, you may well have heard this before, but I think it's important to come back to. That name of God is so similar to the sound of breath. And when do we hear ourselves breathing? It's when we've stopped long enough to hear it. And it's amazing, I think, that whatever you do, whether you're praying or profanity or shouting or singing in the terraces or saying something kind or lying through your teeth, in all of those things you are still breathing and therefore still saying the name of God, that we can't escape the love of God. Say when we go up to the heights, you're there. When we go down to the depths, you're there. That the name of God permeates all of our life from our first breath to our last. Sometimes we just need to stop long enough to hear it. Hope that's helpful. Hope you have a good chat about this in your groups. I'll do another one on Sunday. Bye.